chest and the arms. Once again. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, lift. And bring it down.
As the mother moves, what happens to the baby in the womb? Does it have any way of knowing what is occurring outside?
And bring it down. And lift. Again.
New discoveries have brought an entirely new focus to the study of life before birth. Scientists now believe that the unborn child can actually hear, feel, and see. Is it possible that it can even think?
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
There are few moments in the human experience as magical as the instant of birth. What influences has this baby encountered in 9 months? How aware was he of his surroundings? Will he remember his birth and life before birth? In 9 months, the unborn has traveled an enormous distance from a single fertilized cell to a complete individual. From the moment of fertilization, these minute cells will transform themselves into a human fetus. 200 million cells will eventually comprise this new person. A tiny heart beats strongly after only 4 weeks. Deep in the womb, and about the size of an adult thumb, a delicate cartilage skeleton begins to take shape at 5 weeks. While the physical growth of the fetus is astounding, a great deal of controversy still exists as to when human life actually begins. The fetus is physically complete after 12 weeks. Barely 3 inches long, it can move its head, squint, frown, and stretch its arms and legs. Between 3 and 6 months, the fetus grows to 8 inches inside these cramped quarters. Its fingernails can scratch its skin, and gender is obvious. At 18 weeks, when the bones are solid and the muscles strong, the baby can punch and kick its mother. Already the unborn wants to suck its thumb. Soft hair grows in the last 3 months. The senses develop. Eyes open and close, and it can hear and perhaps understand the mother's world. Everything that affects a pregnant woman influences her growing fetus.
During the pregnancy,
Dr. Kenneth L. Jones, director of the Birth Defects Clinic at the University of California, San Diego, describes the danger of drugs on the fetus during its most vulnerable period of growth.
it would appear that the first trimester of pregnancy, the first 3 months of the pregnancy, is the most critical time as far as the fetus is concerned, as far as most drugs and chemicals are concerned. And the reason for that is that that is the period when the organs are developing in the developing fetus and embryo. By the end of the first trimester, by the end of the third month of gestation, the baby is completely formed. All the organs are formed. And after that, it really just is a process of growth and more development of the fetus. But all the organs are really formed by the time the fetus is 3 months old. So that time, that first 3 months of the pregnancy is most critical as far as most drugs and chemicals are concerned.
Despite these warnings, the average woman takes about 14 different drugs during pregnancy, although it is unclear what effect many of these chemicals have on the developing baby. These children were tragically deformed by the tranquilizer thalidomide, taken by many pregnant women in the late 1950s and early 1960s. There are other more commonplace agents that might harm the fetus. Drinking and smoking are a normal part of life. Now it is known that even in minimal amounts, smoking and drinking may have a detrimental effect upon the fetus throughout pregnancy.
We were asked to see a group of children, all of whom were born to chronically alcoholic women. And we found that the 8 children that we saw all had some very characteristic features which made them very similar. They were all very small at the time of birth, which is to say they failed to thrive inside their mother, presumably because that high alcohol content that she was drinking was getting through her bloodstream across the baby's placenta and into the baby's bloodstream, and it was affecting the growth of the baby in utero. Babies born to women who smoke during their pregnancy are smaller at the time of birth than babies born to women who don't smoke during pregnancy.
And obviously they
Dr. Thomas Verney, author of The Secret Life of the Unborn Child.
Now, for a long time we have known, of course, that there is physiological communication between the unborn child and the mother. We know that everything that the mother eats and drinks, alcohol, smoking, all these things, the nicotine, go right through the placental barrier. One researcher did an interesting study which went a little bit further than just what the mother eats. He asked several of the mothers who were habitual smokers to only think of having a cigarette. Just consider for a moment that you're going to light up. The moment that mothers just thought of having a cigarette, their unborn children immediately reacted to their thoughts as if they, in fact, were smoking up. Now, there is no physiological explanation for this. We know of no neurochemicals that are produced in a person when they just think of having a cigarette. So something else is going on here.
The fetus may be more aware of its surroundings than previously understood. At Cedars-Sinai Hospital, Dr. Calvin Hobel, Director of Obstetrics and Gynecology, comments.
There are indications and studies which suggest that the fetus can interpret its mother's feelings and how the mother feels about its fetus. If a mother is stressed and concerned about her pregnancy, and she can release hormones which influence the environment of the fetus. And I think that the fetus is in a position where it can interpret that type of information, which can have an effect on the fetus and its development.
New methods of monitoring the health and development of the fetus may relieve the usual anxieties that accompany pregnancy. Carol Jackson, one of Dr. Hobel's patients, is now in her 4th month and has decided to have a sonogram to be sure that her baby is healthy. On a television screen, she can see her baby move and actually count its fingers and toes.
A sonogram uses the principle of sound waves, much like sonar is used in the Navy to search for submarines in the ocean. Sound waves of this magnitude are very safe and do not harm the fetus.
Because Carol is 38 and has a family history of problem pregnancies, her doctor has also recommended amniotic testing. A hollow needle is carefully inserted through the abdomen into the amniotic sac that surrounds and protects the fetus.
In this fluid are cells that are exfoliated from the fetus into the amniotic fluid, and by taking a sample of the fluid and then in tissue culture In the laboratory, we can grow these cells and we can study their genetic components.